Okay. Any questions before we start today's lecture? Any question about previous classes? Any of the we have had two classes. So if you have any questions, let me know. No questions? Okay. My screen is visible, right? Is my screen visible to everyone? What is V8? There is a question. What is V8? V8 is the V8 is the name of JavaScript engine which is used in Google Chrome, and that is also used by Node.js. Okay, to execute JavaScript. So is that it? So let's start with today's lecture, and that is today we are going to cover Express. And Express, as I told you, in MERN, Express is E stands for Express. Okay, M stands for MongoDB. We haven't started to talk about MongoDB or databases yet, but we'll get there. You already know React, and now you also know Node.js little bit, right? So we will cover Node. We have covered Node.js. Now we will start to look at Express. Okay. Basically, what is Express? Express is a framework. My voice is low. Hmm. Is my voice low for all of you or just somebody? Okay. I think something is wrong on your end, so Saurabh. Okay. So Express, it is a framework. Now, what is a framework? Framework is uh, not a completely different language in itself. It is using some language like React is built on top of JavaScript. Express is also built on top of JavaScript. React has its own syntax, right? Or you can say rules or guidelines. Okay, so with frameworks, there is a certain way of doing things. Does not give you completely different language to learn, but rather it is a style or syntax or guideline to do. So basically, it imposes all frameworks impose a certain way of achieving something, right? So React gives imposes a certain way, and that is the way of components, right? Reusable components. Similarly, Express also imposes some style or some guidelines that we have to follow to build server. Okay. Yes. In the previous class, we looked at how to build a simple HTTP server with core module, but that was very primitive. Okay, if I show you the code right now, that was very primitive. And we have, if let's say we have 100 routes or we have 50 routes, then we will have to handle all those routes in the single function, right? That becomes inconvenient. So we will have to do something like this. And God knows what will happen if our route URL is, dynamic, as something dynamic in it. Right now we have static routes, but if let's say user slash user ID is there, then we are not going to write logic for to handle all of that, right? Basically, Express comes into this picture to help us build build multiple routes, build servers with multiple routes very easily. Okay, so it gives us uh, capabilities to do things. Uh, Basically, it makes things slightly easier for us. Easier for us. but we have to learn its style, right? Its style, as in how do we achieve these things? We have to learn how. Okay, I guess this statement is clear. We can do the same thing by using core module, but it is very difficult. It is not very convenient. Express comes into the picture to make these things convenient for us, but we have to learn how to use Express. Okay, basically React also does the same thing. It makes things convenient for you, but you have to learn React. Similarly, Express makes things convenient to build servers, but you have to learn Express. Express is a framework. It's React is a framework. Express is a framework. Both are frameworks. It's You're saying Express is not a framework because it is a library. So most of the frameworks are packaged in as libraries, right? When you create a React app, you also you also install React as a library. So React is a framework as well as a library. React is both a framework and a library. Similarly, Express is both a framework and a library. Okay. So now we understand what Express is, what it does for us. Okay, it makes it things not just slightly, but very very convenient. And we will see how it makes things convenient for us. Okay. So this is the introduction of Express. Now I'm just going to go and cd into this directory, and I'm just going to say npm uh, init y. I'm going to uh, basically initiate an npm project. Okay. So this is the npm package.json with which our project has been created. Npm project has been created. So I'm just going to install the libraries that I will need. For now, I'm just going to need Express. Okay. First, we will begin by installing Express in our project. So this is the project. Once the Express installation is complete, you will see a dependency object here. In that, you will see Express and which version of Express. Okay. Once this is done, you will see Express is installed in this project, and we can start using it. Okay. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to open this side by side, and I'm going to create server file. You can create name it server file, you can name it index file, or you can name it app file, anything. Okay, so I'm just going to name it index or server. Voice is breaking. Hmm. Okay. Let me try. Let me try to switch networks. Give me a second. Yeah, yeah. I understand signal strength is not good. So let me just switch to my mobile network probably. Give me a second. Okay, I'm switching now. Is this good? Am I audible now properly? Is my voice fine? Okay. Okay then. So I have just created this index file, and we will begin using Express. Okay. So I'm just going to write down what we are going to learn. First of all, we will learn how to uh, create multiple routes. So in this, we will have static routes, and then dynamic routes. So we use React router, right? In front end, we use React router. Here, uh, we are going to use Express. So I'm just going to say Express, require Express. So once we require it, you will see Express is exported as a function. So this yellow color means it is a function. Okay. So instead of using importing HTTP, this time we are importing Express, and we create server by calling this function directly. Okay, this will create a server, and then we do server dot listen. Okay, here we pass the port number. So I'm going to say 3000, and then we pass the callback function like this: console dot log server started at localhost 3000. Is this clear? I did not create server file inside node module. Node module says collapsed. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Okay. So this is very simple. This will start the server. But right now we have not defined how to handle requests. Right? We have not defined for any request how to handle requests. Right? That part is still pending. So instead of doing something like this, instead of passing a callback function when we create a server, we do something like this. We say server dot, and now based on which kind of request you want to handle, you based on the request method, you define whether you want to handle get request, you want to handle post request, you want to handle fetch request or put request, or so these are all functions. Okay, so for example, let's say we want to have get request. Now in this we pass two things. First is a callback, first is a string, so which path we want to handle. So let's say I want to handle root path. This is the root path. And second thing, we pass a request handler. We call it a request handler. Okay. So we start with request method, then we say path, and then we say handler. Okay, these three things. Just remember these things for now, right? And how do we send the response? We send the response by saying hello there. Okay, this is a very simple way of defining one request. So we want to handle get request with this path, root path. Okay, any other path will not be handled by this callback function. Understand? This is only for get request. So get request on the root path will give you hello there as the response. So let's try that. I'm going to just say node mon. Okay, and this will start node index. Coming to this, we get this response. Okay, if I try any other endpoint, if I try any other endpoint, we are going to get cannot get. Okay, what is nodemon? I told you yesterday what is nodemon. Nodemon is a package. Seems like you were not paying attention during the part where I explained nodemon. But nodemon is a package which lets me execute a file, and if I make any changes in the project, then that will be reloaded. So if I make changes here, this will reload the server, so that I don't have to reload it, stop the server and restart. Okay, So I can just use nodemon to restart the server for me. Okay. So if I do this, you will see the status code we get. Let's start from the beginning. If I do this, the status code we get is 200 and we get this data. In the response, we get hello there. Okay. And the response status code is 200. But if I go on any other path, which is not defined right now, so let's say welcome.html, we will get this response and the status code is going to be 404. Is that server.get is automatically taking the request URL. This is the request URL for which we are handling a request. We are saying get request on this path. Okay. If I want to have get request on, let's say, welcome.html, then we can say h1 welcome h1. Okay. If I reload this time you will get this response. Okay. But if you make request to, let's say, home.html, you will again get no response, right? You will get this weird response, cannot get /home.html. Okay. This is clear, right? How do we define request? How do we define request in Express? So we say handle get request on this URL, and this is the callback function which will prepare the response or process the request. Okay. Does this make sense? Okay. Let's go to some diagrams because we love diagrams. So by the way, if you want to look at the previous diagram, just go to the README file here, and I have added the link to the drawing. Okay, you can check out the drawing from previous class. In fact, for each class, I'm going to attach the drawing in README file. So what we have done is we have defined two uh, two requests. Okay, one is this, and then another is this. So if a request comes, what is going to happen whenever a request comes? So let's say user is making a request. Let me write it here. Let's say user is making request get / welcome.html. What Express is going to do for this request? Let's close this now. We don't need this, and we don't need this. Let's just focus here. What Express is going to do? It's going to check, hey, is this get request? Yes, this is get request. So this request method is matching this. Now Express is going to check out URL. Does this URL match this URL? It doesn't, right? So it will not execute this callback. Now it will go to the next request that we have defined. So it will check, hey, is the request method matching? Request method is matching. Is the URL matching? Then the URL is also matching. Then it will execute this callback function. Okay. Express will execute this callback function, and by response.send, it will send the response. Okay. Clear? If we define something like post hello, right? So if we send a request again, it will check with this. It will not match the URL. It will check the request with this. It will not match the URL. Sorry, it will match the URL and the request method. So it will execute this callback function, right? And it will also check with this. Now the request method is not matching, so it will not execute that. callback function that we provide. Okay, so just giving you an example. Right. So if we make a post request, right now we cannot make post request just from the browser, because all of the requests that we make from the browser here, browser address bar at least, they are going to be get request only. So to handle post request, I'm going to use this extension called Thunder Client, and new request, go to post method localhost 3000 and hello. Okay, once we do this, we get hello user response. Okay, so now one question, just to give you an idea, if I define something like this again, right? If I define, let's say, something like this again, now which of these, because nobody is going to stop me from doing this, right? I can define two routes at the same time. Just a curiosity, what is going to happen now? So I'm just going to say second handler. Okay, so I'm going to send a request. Yeah, I'm going to send a request welcome.html. So see which one gets executed this time. First one, right? Here let's say welcome again. So which one gets executed? The first one, right? Again, let me restart the server. So reload. First one is getting executed. Now if I change the order, which one is going to get executed? The first one. This has a log and this has a different response altogether. So this time we get second handler. Okay. So once a request is already executed, it is not going to uh, replace this. Okay. Once we have defined a request, it is not going to replace this. Clear? So we should not do this. So let me just remove it for now, just to keep things simple. Is this part clear? Post get request, post request. What we have learned so far is how to create multiple routes. So we have created multiple routes. This is the root route. This is the welcome route. This is hello route. Okay. All of these have static URL. There is nothing dynamic. URL is not changing. So a dynamic URL will look like something like hello with, say, a name, a username. So let's say Umakant. Okay. Or the same type of request would look like hello Arvind. Okay. Okay. So these are both 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 of these requests are identical. Are you able to follow me? Both of these requests are identical. The only thing changing is the this part of the URL. Okay. So how do we define these type of requests with Express? Right? How do we define these type of requests? So to define this type of request, we say post. So this is the post request, and we say colon name. So this now this type of syntax becomes a placeholder. That means anything, any text can replace this placeholder. Okay, any request which is matching this type of pattern will be handled by this request handler. Okay, hello. Let's just say for now dynamic user. So I'm going to make a request to this. I'm going to get hello user from here. But if I pass some name ABCD, then I'm going to get hello dynamic user. Okay. That means this time the request is going to this. No matter what I type here, PQRS, no matter what I type, it is going to get executed by this request handler. It is going to be uh, processed by this request handler. Clear? Any questions so far? Okay. I'm not getting many responses, but I'm guessing, I'm just assuming that nobody has questions so far. Clear? Okay. So how do we get this? How do we get the name of the user? Whatever user is sending, how do we get the value of the user? So that we can say the hello, we can say hello with a name. So Express gives us a very uh, simple way of handling all these things. Now, this will be replaced by a string. Obviously, all the URLs are just strings. There is no data type in URLs, right? If I type 123, that is also a string for a URL, right? So we will, how do we get the value of this string? So React is very simple. Sorry, Express makes it this very simple. This is loaded into the request object. So this request object that we are getting as the first parameter of this callback function, this will hold all the necessary data about the request, including the URL data. Okay, including the data uh, which is passed into the URL. So we say request, and this type of data is request param data. So there are multiple types of data we can pass in a request. We can pass parameters, right? Or we can call them params, request params. We have query params, and then we have request body. All of you know about these things, right? All of you have used these things in React. So we will look at an example for each of these data types, okay? Or each of the type of data that we can pass in the request. So we will look at all of these examples. Right now we are looking at request params. So this request object will hold all the necessary data. It is just a request. It is just an object, by the way. This is not any special thing. This is just an object, and it can hold anything. So this request object has params object, and in the params object, if we have it will have the name property as well. Since we have defined the name placeholder here, it will have the name property as well. Okay, so this is how we can access uh, user's name. So I can just say hello name, and if I pass 1 2 3 4, I am going to get 1 2 3. If I pass the name as ABCD, then I'm going to get ABCD. Okay. If I pass, for example, if I pass Umakant Vasisht, I'm going to get Umakant Vasisht. Okay. So this is how you handle dynamic routes with content like this, request params like this with Express. It is very simple to do that with Express. Okay. Uh, a very real life type of example that I'm going to show you is server dot uh, get. Okay, and this is going to get a little bit complicated now, because this time I'm just going to say slash star. That means if the request does not match any of these handlers, so anything that replaces star, right? Any URL will fall under this request handler. Does this make sense? This is like a wild card. Okay. So this is an example of wild card. So I'm just going to say that any request that does not match any of the above request will match with this wildcard pattern. Okay. So we are going to just deal with this request in this request handler. So I'm just creating a few uh, files. So in the static folder, sorry, it should be static, not statics. Static, I'm going to say index.html. I'm going to say welcome dot. This is a real life example. So you may want to build a server like this. So just saying home, home. Okay. And this is index, index. Replace this with welcome. Okay. So we have just defined 3 pages. Now instead of doing this for each type of HTML page, what I'm going to do, I'm going to define a single route and sorry, any route matching like this, home or home or welcome or index, whatever, that is going to be handled by this request. Okay. This request handler. So how do we do that? We say uh, in instead of wildcard, you could also use file. Okay, that is also going to work. So if you want, you can have request dot params dot file. Okay, or file name. File name is more appropriate. So now we need to send the response as the file content. Okay, so to handle that, we can use fs library. Okay, so we will say fs dot read file synchronously. Right now I'm going to use read file synchronously, but later on we will use a synchronous way of sending the response as well. Okay, so I'm just going to say dot static because this file is going to be, I'm going to look for that file in the static folder. Okay, and then the file name, right? So file name like this. Then we are going to read that as u as utf-8 so that the result we get is string value. Okay, then this could go wrong. By the way, this could go wrong if the file does not exist. So let's say user enters uh, contact.html and the file does not exist here. So in that case, we will not be able to open this file and this will throw error. We will handle that error later on. Don't worry about that right now. So content, send the content. Okay. So let's try with index. Let's try with home. So we get home. The title changes here and we have welcome. Okay. So welcome.html. So with this, we have defined with this with request params, we have defined a way of sending different file content based on the user's request. Okay, this is using request params, right? Is this clear? This was an example of dynamic route, handling dynamic route with express, also coupled with reading file. Okay, reading the content of the file and sending that as a response. Now this could, as I told you, this could go wrong if I try to open contact.html. So this is going to throw an error like this. And also this is going to, uh, yeah, this is going to show the error here. Okay. So you can see that no such file or directory. right? No such file or directory. If you don't want user to see all of this here, you can say try, okay, catch. And this with this we are going to learn something new as well. So we will just log the error dot message, and we are going to send the response, uh, say something went wrong, okay, a very generic error message. So if I try this now, I'm going to get something went wrong. But there is this is not completely correct, because we are sending response status code as 200. Instead, we should send something like status. So this is how we send the status code with the request, with the response. We can attach the status code like this. Okay. So if I try this now, you will see now this is coming as red because 500. Okay. So we have learned these things now. Response status code. Okay. How to send different status codes and how to handle different routes, right? Uh, Different request methods. Status code should be 404 because file not found. Yes, that is correct. But here we are not very sure that always the error is going to be because of file not being present. There could be some other error as well. So if we are completely sure that it is because of file not present, if it is not it is because of file not being present, then you can change this to 404. But it is better to have 500 error status code, because this could result into multiple this could uh, result into an error because of multiple reasons. What does mean server crashed? Okay, where, well, so right now we all of the requests that we are sending, they are not causing the server to go down. That means our server is still running and functional and serving the requests, right? But let's say if I don't handle errors properly, if I don't handle errors properly, so for example, uh, just one second, just let me answer the question. What does server crashed mean? So for example, let's say here, if I try to use some variable, right, like this, if I try to make a request, and I obviously this is going to result into an error because the variable b is not defined. Okay, server is running. Okay, I am sending a request. I am sending request to this page. All of these requests which are going into this request handler are working properly. Okay, my server is working properly here. But if somebody makes a request to this type of route, this route, which is where the error actually is. So if I try to do this, you will see that I will get this error. Okay, reference B is not defined. Now this is not causing the error to crash. Sorry, this is not causing the server to crash. But let's say if I throw an error, throw new error. Okay, if I have a code that does this, okay, server is still not crashing. I was expecting that server will crash, but I think with the new Express version, they have handled it better so that server does not crash. But you in the previous versions, if we throw an error or if we use syntax in a wrong way. For example, I'm just going to say, uh, just going to write all of this. This is a comment without a comment. Okay. So see, now I have error in my code, which is actually causing the script to crash. That means node is not able to execute this code. Why? Because there is syntax error. So if I send any request, even though these are valid requests, my server is not running. Okay, my server is not running because there is syntax error in my file. So that is causing the server to crash. Right. This is how the server gets crashed. If you have any syntax error that is not handled or not handled properly, errors not handled properly in your code. Okay. Now we have another doubt. Can we send code dynamically according to errors? Do you mean this? Yes, we can send dynamically. You can handle it if using if condition. So if an error is of this type, you will send. We will look at all these examples when we build an actual server. Hold on, I need to plug in my charger. So we will look at the examples where we send different types of error status codes, right? Okay. This is just the beginning, so we cannot cover all the examples right now. I request you to be patient. Uh, we will try to cover everything possible. Another question is, what will error message display? So error is any type of error that goes wrong here. Error, if you log the whole error, so you will see this. This is the complete error. But if you just use error dot message, then this is going to be this first line and not the whole thing. Okay. This is the stack trace with the error, and error dot message is just the gist of the error, right? So error some hello. I think something went wrong with my internet. Just give me a second. Charger is also not working. Just give me a second, please. Yeah, now it's working. Okay. Uh, so hmm, cool. Yeah, I was at error message. Just a second. So this, if I you saw the whole error, right? If I go to, let's say, contact.html, and if we log the complete error object, then you will see this whole thing with the stack trace. This is called stack trace. So, but if you just want the message, error message, you can say error dot message. Okay. If I try now, you will see that we are just getting this error message and we are not logging the whole stack trace. Clear? Okay. So far we have covered how to create multiple routes with different request methods, different URLs, and also containing dynamic URLs. and how to send different status codes. Okay. Now we have also covered parameters in dynamic routes. Now, for example, if I want to have uh, if I want to have a route where I want to use uh, query params. Okay. So I want to use query params. So I'm just going to say I'm just going to type some query param here in this file itself. Okay. So email is, let's say, abc@example.com. Okay, this is the request I'm sending. Just uh, let me use index.html here. Okay. Now, how do I read this email in this? So how do I read uh, email in this request handler? This is the request handler for this route. So how do I read email? Um, so I can read email by saying query equals to request dot query. So anything that I pass in request the query param, say email, I can have more things by ampersand, say date of birth is 1990, right? All of this. So if I show you, if I log this query, you will see that we can actually see the whole object here. Okay, so this is the query. I am getting email as as a property in this object and date of birth, right? So this is how you can read email and everything. So something like source, UTM source, right? You may have seen UTM source in some other websites. So let's say Google. So this time you will see email, date of birth, UTM source. Okay. And all of these are going to be strings, no matter what you type. If you type, let's say age equals to 30, then this is always going to be a string because everything in the URL is a string. Okay. Is this clear? How to read query params? This is a query param. In the request.query object, we will get all the query params. Okay. Now, for example, coming back to the third thing, which is request body. How do we send request body? I'm going to send a request body here. So this is the request I'm going to use. Now, this is the request handler where the request will come and I will send the body. Okay. Uh, I don't have option to send from the address bar. That's why I am using Thunder client over here. So I can send request body in multiple format. I can send JSON, I can send XML, text, form encoded, GraphQL, binary, all that. Okay. So I'm just going to send the JSON now. And let's say name is already present. Uh, Instead of name, let's have designation. So I say software engineer and let's say profile picture, some profile picture, http example.com/abc.png, whatever. Right. I am going to send this data. So how do I read this request body? Here I can say const body request dot body. So I will log this just to show you. By the way, this is not going to work the first time we try because there is something that we need to do to make it work. But I'm just going to show you before without changing anything. So if I send the request here, you will see we get undefined. Okay, we get undefined from here. Let me add a text as well. So undefined. Okay, but why are we not getting this body request body? Is because we have to do something here. Server dot uh, so it is going to be server dot use express dot json. So all of the request body is ignored unless we use this. Okay, so request will have json body. So if I try now, you will see that sorry, you will see now we start getting the request body. Okay, clear? This is we can use this object now. We can use this object now to get the request body. Okay, clear? Right. So this is how we work with Express to achieve different things. Now you will see all of this is we are working according to the Express rules of Express. We are not creating all of this syntax. Express has defined a certain way of doing things, and we have to follow that method or approach, right, to achieve these things. So we are learning React now so that we can conveniently handle multiple types of requests, different types of requests. Okay, is this clear? Cool. So now that we have learned something, we want to build a very small CRUD application. Okay, an application in React, a REST application, uh, a server which handles CRUD operations. Okay, I guess nobody is asking questions, so I'll just proceed. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and build. Let's do that in the same folder, app.js. This is going to be my new application. I am already going very slow. Okay, so I will just import Express. I will create an application. You can name this anything since this is a variable only, and you can start listening to this. Okay, okay. Before we define any request, is callback in listen mandatory? No, this is not mandatory. You can leave this, but I want to have this because so that we know something is not something does not go wrong here. So what could go wrong here is if this port is used by some other process, so then this server will not start. Will not start. Okay. Cool. Before we start defining all the requests, let me just document this. Okay, we are going to build a simple CRUD application for managing employee data. Okay, so we will create four request. First request is going to be a get request, which will employee, which will be this will be the URL, and it will be a get request, and it will return all employees data. Okay. The second request is going to be a post request, and the URL for that is going to be employee. Uh, and let's have slash all, so that we know that we are getting all employees data. Here we have post employee, so this will add a new employee to the system. Third is going to be uh, update request, right? Create, this one is create, this one is read. Next, let's have patch request to update, okay, employee, and we will patch with an ID. So we will just patch one employee. So we will say, let's say ID number, employee ID 1 or employee ID 2, whichever employee we want to update, we will pass the ID. Okay, this is going to be a dynamic route. And this will have request body to update the fields. So we have already learned all of this. We have learned how to define multiple routes with these URLs. We have learned how to create post route. We have learned how to have uh, dynamic routes. Okay. Then the last part is delete part, and we will have employee slash ID. So this will delete the employee with the given ID. Okay, so this is our goal for this very small application. Now, where are we going to hold the data for all the employees? We are going to hold the data in a JSON file. Okay, so we will create a JSON file, employees.json, and to start the server, let's have uh, a few employees already which are present in the system. Okay, so name, and this is going to have designation, uh, staff engineer. Okay, um, I will also have include gender. Okay, so I'm just going to have two. We can create another more. Human resource. Uh, okay, these are the two employees in our system right now. So whatever, if we want to get all the employees, we will read we will read the content of this file and send in the response. If we want to update, or sorry, create an employee, we will have to read this, add a new employee in this array, and then update the content of this file. Okay, are you with me? If we have to create an employee, we have to change the file with the new employee data and the already existing employee data, right? Is this clear? If we have to create a new employee, we have to keep the existing, and we have to, let's say if we create another, then this will change the content of the file like this. So if we do this, then support engineer like this. Okay, this will create the employee information. Yes. Now if we want to patch, so for example, if we patch the ID number 2, employee with ID number 2, then maybe we can change to, vice president, like this. Okay, whatever. And if we want to delete, let's say if we want to delete this, this will modify the content of the file like this. Okay, it will not change the IDs of already existing, it will only delete with that. Okay, also if we want to create the next employee, then we will have to create with ID number 4. Okay, we will have to create with ID number 4, because we cannot create an ID with the ID number 3. So we will create an employee with the maximum ID, right? We will increment the ID. Okay, so let's remove all of this. Also, while we create an employee, right, while we create the employee, uh, we will pass only name. Let me copy here from here. We will pass the name, designation, and gender. System auto itself will automatically create the ID, will assign a new ID. Okay, cool. So let's begin with this. First of all, I'm just going to say app dot get slash employees slash all, and this is a response dot send. I'm going to copy all of these. So second request is going to be slash post employee. The third request is going to be a patch request, and here we will have ID, and the last request is going to be delete with the ID. Okay, so these 4 requests we can define like this. Okay, currently we have not handled any request, we have just defined these requests. So we have to start processing these requests now. Okay, now to read from this file or to update in this file, I'm going to create another module. I'm not going to have that logic in the same file. So I'm going to just define the functions here. Get all employees. Okay, update, sorry, create, or instead of create, let's say add employee, and we will pass the data here. Here, let's say update employee. We will pass the ID and we will pass the data which we want to update. Say remove employee with ID. These are the 4 functions that we will implement here. Module dot exports. Let's export all of these functions. Okay, is this clear? Any questions till this point? I'm not getting a lot of responses. Am I going too fast? Hmm. Okay. Okay. So we will have to implement all of these functions, and then we can start using these functions in these request handlers, right? So, and we can use this user defined module, employees module, and we can use all of these functions. Clear? Now let's start implementing these functions one by one. Now because we are going to deal with this file, we will have to use fs module. Okay. But instead of using the core fs module, uh, just as it is, I'm going to use the promise version of this. Okay. So this whole fs module is also provided in the uh, async function format or the promise format. Okay. So we can use async await in all the functions that are available. So I'm going to convert all of these functions as an asynchronous function because we are going to use promises of these functions. For example, if I want to read the content of the file, so let's say employee equals to fs dot read file, right? This time we do not get read file sync. There is no function called read file sync. We only have read file, and we will give employees dot json, right? So we will have to use await here. Okay, just give me a second, getting a call. Okay, so sorry about the call, but instead of reading file synchronously, we will use await here. So we will get the response. Okay, and we can pass the options, and we will say UTF-8, so that this data we get is going to be a string. Now this is a JSON here, but we are going to read this as a string. So we have to convert this, right? We have to convert employees to a JSON data. So to convert string to JSON, we will just say employees. Okay. And we will return employees from this function. So this is how we can read from the file and convert that to a JSON data and return as a response, right? Everybody with me till now? These 4 or 5 lines are clear, right? Anybody has any questions? Instead of using read file sync, which we have been doing so far, so we earlier we were using read file sync, we were using fs module. This time we are using read file from fs slash promises. This is nothing but the same function, but with a, okay, hold on, my voice is breaking. Okay, network is not stable today. So instead of using normal fs module, we are going to use promised module with promises. And instead of using read file synchronously, we are going to use read file, and we have to await for the response this time. Since we are using await, that's why I have made this function as an asynchronous function. Okay. Okay. Rest of the things are very simple. We will get a string. We will convert that string to a JSON, and then we will return as the list of employee. Okay. Now this will be an array because this is an array. If we parse this as JSON, this is going to be an array. Okay. Now let's use this. So I'm going to say const employees equals to, and now this time we have to use await. Okay, since we are using await here, we have to make this function asynchronous as well, and get all employees. This will get all the employees, and then we have to pass, uh, we can pass an object, and we will say data employees. Okay, is this clear? Okay, one thing that I want to note, let's run this first, and then I will show you. So I'm going to run nodemon app.js this time because all of my code is in app.js. If I send a request here, I will say I will get cannot, I will get a 404 error. But if I say employees, because this is the endpoint, employee slash all, this time I will get this data. Okay, this is the data, and this is an array. So you will see in the this in this we are getting this data, right? So that is working. But for example, if I made a typo here, if I made something, if something goes wrong here, and if I try this now, you will see that my server has crashed. Okay, my server crashed because now there is no file that with this name. Now you could make mistakes. The best thing you can do is you can prevent your server from crashing by using try catch. Okay, anything that goes wrong here, you should always wrap your request handlers in try catch, so that if anything goes wrong, your server does not crash. Okay, and you can send an error message, something went wrong with the status code, because we don't know what could go wrong. That's why we are using this internal server error code with a generic error message. Okay, so if something goes wrong here, user will not user will see, I mean client will get this response. Otherwise, we can go ahead and fix by checking what is the issue. We can log, first of all we can log the issue. Okay, first of all we will log the issue, and then we will see that okay, the error is here, so let's fix that, and then we can fix the issue, and then it will start working again. Clear? So always wrap your request handlers in try catch, which is what I'm going to do now. uh, okay, so I'll replace this simple format, this simple request handler with try catch. Right now, we have implemented sorry, we have implemented this one. Let's implement create also. Okay, so we will have to implement add employee. Now to add employee, let me show you what how we are going to make the request. We are going to make the request by localhost 3000 slash employee, and this is going to be a post request, and I'm going to send JSON body here, and the body is going to be like this. Okay, it will not have comma, it will not have any ID, and let me change the name. and say this person is uh, product manager. Okay, and gender is male. Now if we send this, what we have to do is, first of all, we have to read the body. Okay, we have to read the body, and before we can read the body as JSON, we have to say app.use express.json, right? We check that other, if we don't do this, then we are going to get undefined as body, right? Once we do this, then we can call add employee. Since this is an asynchronous function, we should await this and also use async here. Okay, so we will pass the data and we will get this data, the whole data that we are passing here, we will get in this function. Now our job in this function, our job is to assign a new ID first of all, and then change the content of this file by including the new employees data. Okay, so I'm going to say first of all, before we can create a new ID, we need all the employees here, right? We need all the employees so that we can create an ID. We cannot create a random ID. We want to create an automatically incrementing ID. So we say employees equals to await get all employees. So we will use this function to get all employees. Now let's create an ID. Okay, let's create an ID. Let's start it with 1, and then I will run a for loop const employee of employees. This is of loop, and if my employee dot id is greater than this id, I will increment my id with 1. Sorry, I will increment my id employee dot id plus 1. Okay, so that is going to guarantee that whatever id we have in this array, my id is always going to be one uh, one more than that. Okay, now we can say data.id is id. Clear? Is this logic clear? Okay, very simple logic. So once this once this data object is assigned with an id with the name, designation, and gender, you can have you can insert the data. Okay, you can push in employees. So at this point, this is going to be an array. Okay, so what you do is you say employees dot push. Okay, and you say data. That is going to modify this array. Now you may want to update the data in this file as well. This is right now, this is in memory. This is not directly, whatever changes we make here are not going to reflect in this file. We have to update the file. Okay, so to update the file, I'm going to create this function update employees file, and we will have all the updated employees here. Now to update the file, what do? We say we first have to convert this into an string, because we cannot write the array as the file content. So we say employees equals to json dot stringify. Okay, so we will stringify this, and then we will say await fs dot write file. Okay, similar to read file, there is a function called write file, and we pass the file name and we pass the data, string data. Okay, this is it. This is going to update this is going to update the content of this file. Okay, this will replace everything in this file with this new data, right? So we can in this function we are going to return the user data, the employee data. Okay, sorry, yeah, instead of data here we will have employees, right? Now our server is ready and we have added the employee. So this employee, we are returning the employee data. So let's have employee and return the data as employee. Okay, so let's try this. Server is already running. So let me try this. Something could go wrong, but we will see the error here. Okay, so I'm going to send a request and you see I get 200 response. That means everything worked fine. And we created a new employee with this ID 3. And if we check the content of this file, you are going to see that this will also have new data. Okay, okay. Something is wrong. That means the file is not updated. I think we have to call the function. We did not call the function. Update employees. So update employees file, right? We will pass the uh, complete array, the whole array, right? So server started again. I will create this new employee. So new employee has ID number 3. And if you see this, now we have the last object is Varun Kumar, product manager, male with ID 3. There is something wrong here. That means this is not formatted nicely. So I could format this myself, but I don't want to format this myself. I want to format this from code. Okay. So when we stringify the array to a string or JSON object to a string, we can change we can pass these two parameters, null and true. So what it is going to do is it is going to format this. It is going to format this by having indentation 2. Okay, it will have two spaces. Right now there are four, I think, yeah, two spaces for indentation. So it will have it will use indentation of size 2 to format this. Okay, so let's say if we create some other employee, right? um, Technical program manager, female. If we do this, then okay, it is giving us ID number 3, which is wrong. It should be more than ID 3, but uh, we'll see. So I think even if this is equal, yeah, yeah, it should be this. Okay, so let me remove this. Although this time it is formatted nicely. Let me try again by deleting the last inserted data. So okay, this time we are getting 4. If I just change to Shrey Bansal, this time we get 5. Okay, so this is already working for us. This is the create part. Okay, so what we are doing is we are checking uh, how many employees are there, and we are iterating through all the employees to generate a new ID, which is the maximum ID, and then we are inserting that and returning the data, inserting that into the file. Similarly, you can implement the update part. Okay, so you get the body, whichever properties that you want to update, and you get the ID. So you will say request dot params dot id, and this is going to be a number, so you can parse it as an integer. Okay, so you can say update employee with the ID, and we have to use async here. Okay, so we will get the updated employee and we will return a employee like this. Okay, so with this we can start implementing update employee. Now to use this, we can say first we need all the employee list so that we can check which employee we want to update for, right? So I'm going to use index -1, and I'm going to run a for loop. If the employee ID is equal to the ID that is provided here, then I can say index equals to okay, I think I it's better to use for loop, for each loop this time. With employee, I will say index if employee dot id equals to the provided ID. I will say index is I. Okay, so there could be two possibilities. Let's say the ID provided exists in this array, or the another possibility could be the ID provided, the employee does not exist with that ID. Okay, so if let's say index is still -1, which is non-zero value, so we will return -1, else we will return the updated employee. So how are we going to update the employee? So first we will fetch the employee from the employee that index, and we will say employee equals to employee comma this. Okay, so uh, this will update all the properties whatever we pass in the data, in the data object. Okay, is this part clear? Now we also have to update this at this index. Once this is updated, we also have to write in this file, and here we will return the updated employee. Okay, is this part clear? Let's run this to test. Localhost 3000 / employee / ID number 1, and this is going to be a patch request. So explaining again, this is the patch request. We get the ID from request parameter, right? I'm adding the parameter here, the ID that I want to update. I'm going to put the body as well. I'm going to put the body here. Okay, let's remove the ID. We don't want to update ID. And instead of Arun Kumar, let's say Arun Yadav. Okay. So I want to change the name. Fine. Right now we only have Arun Kumar in this file. But once we call this route, we are going to get the ID. We are going to get the body from the request, the fields that we want to update. We are going to get that as request body. Then we will call update employee with the ID and the data. So the I first of all we will search uh, at which position does the ID number one exist. So it is at position number 0. Okay. So we will filter out the index. If the index is not updated from -1 to some non-negative number, okay, that means the ID we are looking for, if I search for let's say 7, I'm never going to find that ID in this, right? So the index will never be updated. But if the index is updated to some number, some non-negative number, that means the employee exists in this array. So we have to handle these two situations differently. Just give me a second. Uh, Look at this code for now and try to understand everything here. Okay. So if the index is not updated from -1 to some other value, that means the employee does not exist. Okay. In the employee array. Otherwise, if it is updated to something else, then that means we can get the employee value from that index. Is clear? Okay. So if the employee we have figured out the employee, then we can change the employee data. Where is employees defined? Do you mean this? So we are reading from this file, get all employees. We are reading from this JSON file. Okay, Shoaib? Then we are updating in the same on the same index. We are updating the new object, new employee object, and we are also reading the updated array to the file. Okay, and we will return the updated employee data. So I'm just going to try this. So I'm getting the new updated array, sorry, new updated object uh, for that employee. And if I go and check here, you will see we are getting this. So if I instead do here something like uh, Verma, then you will see we will get this one and we will get Verma here. Now let's handle the case where the employee does not exist. Then in that case, this is going to be -1, right? This is we are returning -1. So let's handle here. If employee is equals to -1, instead of sending uh, this data -1, we are going to send response status 404 and say error employee with the given ID does not exist. Okay. So if I try with 7, then we are going to get an error with status code 404. Okay. Employee with given ID does not exist. Is this clear? We are passing all data in request. Cannot we pass that field only that we want to update. Yes, we can do that. So let's say if I just want to update designation from staff engineer to, let's say, director of engineering. If we want to do this for, let's say, ID number 1, then we will see that we are getting the name and gender with the ID with the updated designation. Why are we using return in the first if? So that we don't send the response again. Once we have sent the response with the correct status code and the error message, we don't want to process further. Okay. Also, it is not possible to send the response for a we can only call send only once. If you try to call send for this response object multiple times, this will result into an error. Okay, so this is all about patch request. Similarly, we can implement the delete request. So it is very easy. Let's just figure out the index that we want to return from. For this, I'm just going to copy the same function. If the index is -1, that means we did not find the employee, we cannot delete. Okay. But if the employee, if the index is uh, non-negative or some valid position in this array, that means we can remove by splice, right? So index and the count is 1. And we will get the removed element, removed employee. We will, this splice function will remove the, will return the removed employee. We will return this, wait, removed employee. This employees array will be modified in place. Okay, this will be modified in place. That means we don't have to uh, store this in a variable. It will change the array, but just by doing a splice. Whatever it is returning, it is returning the removed employee. Okay, once we have removed, we can update in the employee file the updated list of employees. Okay. Removed. This is, yeah. Okay. This is very simple, very similar to update request. Change the employee spelling. Yeah, I did. Okay. So we can also copy this logic here. The ID that we want to delete. We do not get the request body here. Let's change this to a sync. Remove employee function. Let's call with ID. Hey folks, really sorry, internet is being flaky today. So yeah, I think you were able to understand till this point, right? Am I audible? Okay, okay. So I'm just saying we will get the ID from the query param. We will call the remove employee function with the ID. It could be -1 in case we don't find the employee. We will return -1. Otherwise, we will return the removed employee, right? So otherwise, it is going to be removed employee. Okay. So this is going to stay the same. Is this part clear? If we get -1, that means we were not able to find the employee in the employee array. Otherwise, we will return the deleted employee. Okay, this is always going to be removed employee. Delete function, this is the function. Okay, let's test this. Instead of doing patch, this time let's do delete, and let's test with, let's say, ID number 90, where we do not have the employee. This time we are going to get employee with the given ID does not exist. Otherwise, let's delete this ID number 3. So this Varun Kumar is deleted. And you can see Varun Kumar is not present in the list now. So if I try to delete again with the ID number 3, we are going to get employee with the given ID does not exist. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another employee this time. Varun Kumar, somebody, doesn't matter. Let's make it a post request. And yeah, this request is to add. What I want to show you is now we have ID 1, 2, 4, and 5. The next employee that we are going to create is going to have ID number 6 this time, right? It should have ID number 6 this time. So if I try to do this, then you see we will get ID 6. Okay. And in this JSON file also, we will have Varun Kumar at the last position with ID number 6. Okay. So this is how you create a JSON, simple JSON server with Express. Any questions here? You can go through the code. If you have any questions, you can come back in the next class. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed today's lecture and you were able to understand most of the things. Okay. Is the function of Express just to create the server? Yes. Express framework is only to create REST API, REST servers. Okay. Okay. So this part is clear, right? Everything is clear about what is being taught today. Cool. Okay, so I guess we are done for the day, and I'll see you all in the next class. Yeah, okay. I'll send you the GitHub link as well. This is the branch that you have to look at. PT Web 8B. Okay. This was updated just 1 minute ago. Okay. So if you click on this, I think you will go here. Yeah. Okay then. I guess I'll see you in the next class then. Bye.